Tonight, the end of a contentious 65-year contract and the promise of a new and fair partnership between Newfoundland and Labrador and Quebec.
The past is the past, but the future is ours to write.
For us, the deal makes sense. Gull Island, if you consult any expert, it's the best project in North America.
They acknowledge that this is our land, and this is our river, and that's good.
As this is about, as I said, the not next election. It's much more than that. It's about the next generation and the generation after that.
If I didn't like it, I'd tell you. I actually like this a lot.
This is the 1969 contract, and we are endeavoring to rip it out.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. We're bringing you inside today's big announcement to rip up and replace the lopsided Churchill Falls contract. What does it mean for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians? Terry Roberts begins our coverage tonight.
Right now, it's only a memorandum of understanding, but it has the potential to make big changes, to change the relationship between Quebec and this province, to change the provincial economy with billions of dollars and thousands of jobs, and to change Labrador into a powerhouse for clean, renewable energy. 300 people crowded into the rooms. Former premiers, politicians of all stripes, and business leaders, media from all over Canada, to see this.
This is the 1969 contract, and we are endeavoring to rip it out.
Andrew Furey symbolically ripping up the 1969 Churchill Falls contract. A deal with painful consequences for this province that energized Quebec with vast amounts of nearly free power for 50 years. Well, that deal is ending. 17 years earlier than planned. No more free power, no fixed prices, and a new agreement that will flood money into this province.
Almost $200 billion. $200 billion has transformative power. It and this changes everything.
$1 billion a year until 2041. Under the old terms, that figure would have been just $20 million annually. And after 2041, more money.
Clap for that. You're going to clap. Clap for $200 billion.
But that's just the tip of this electric iceberg. This deal includes 4 mega projects, an investment of about $34 billion over the next decade. And here's how it breaks down. Remember Gull Island? At 2,200 megawatts, it's been called the best undeveloped hydro project in North America. Well, it's going ahead. Quebec will pay us $3.5 billion for the right to develop it. NL Hydro will own and operate it, but Quebec will build it. And at $25 billion, it takes all the financial risks. The plan is to commission Gull Island within the next decade. And there will be a new powerhouse built at Churchill Falls. That's nearly $5 billion to make another 1,100 megawatts. Again, Quebec will build it and take all the risks. The existing Churchill Falls station will also be upgraded. And hundreds of kilometers of new transmission lines will be built throughout Labrador and Quebec.
For me, it's a great day also.
So after decades of resisting, why is Quebec changing course on Churchill? Quebec's premier says his province needs more power. Both premiers say the MOU is a win for both provinces and Indigenous groups in Labrador.
I will not allow our province to ever repeat the mistakes of previous mega projects.
Andrew Furey has repeatedly taunted Legault, saying, "Show me the money." Well, it looks like that's about to happen. This is a big step, an agreement in principle. Now the lawyers get to work, hoping to sign contracts and start construction in 2026. Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, today's announcement is about more than hydropower. It's also about political power. While Andrew Furey jokes that Quebec is showing Newfoundland and Labrador the money, the opposition says, show us the details. Here Now's Mark Quinn reports.
Let's make sure that we don't repeat the mistakes of the past. Let's make sure we take our time. Let's get it right. But let's make sure we have an open and transparent process.
It sounds good. But right now it's a promise, it's a memorandum of understanding.
This is good sign, that's a good relationship with the province.
Today at the Rooms there was applause for the Premier, but not from the opposition. They're anxious for that debate Furey promises will happen in a special January session in the legislature.
We're about to enter into another 50-year agreement with the province of Quebec. So it's very, very important for us to get this right. And we all want to get this right. So that's why, we need to get into the details of this agreement. What does it actually do? How does it work? And I'm looking forward to that.
The NDP hopes this MOU means the old Churchill Falls deal will actually be torn up.
I think it's safe to say that every Newfoundlander and Labradorian who has had to deal with the aftermath of the original Churchill Falls agreement is hoping that indeed this is the game changer.
For the Innu of Labrador, there's hope. They say they were ignored in the past, but not this time.
The Innu weren't consulted, they were never involved, but now that we are involved, this is very good.
The Liberals hope to have a final agreement by April 2026. The Conservatives and the NDP want every scrutiny possible, saying the Public Utilities Board, politicians, and the public should be given every opportunity to review the deal before it's completed. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Now, this isn't the first time the province has tried to change the lopsided Churchill Falls contract. Former Premier Brian Tobin challenged it in court in the late 1990s, but was unsuccessful. Now, at the time, he said there was no scenario under which Newfoundland would subsidize Quebec for decades. Here's his take on today's announcement.
I'm strongly supportive of what was announced today. I think this is righting the historic wrong. And I think the Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador for sure, but frankly, both premiers should take a bow. All of the objectives that not only I, but virtually every other premier sought to achieve are in this deal. An escalator clause, a commercial terms in terms of what is paid for power, the ability to ensure that more power is recalled for use in Labrador and on the island of Newfoundland as well. Full participation, appropriate participation by the Innu Nation, by First Nations communities. Frankly, a dramatic increase in the amount of revenue flowing to the province. So there's, as I look at this, and I have to tell you, I wouldn't have any hesitation having spilled blood over this negotiation in the past. If I didn't like it, I'd tell you, I actually like this a lot. Great respect for what's been accomplished.
Now, there were a lot of numbers in today's announcement, which will be studied and scrutinized in the coming days and months. Larry Short is an investment advisor. He calls this the honeymoon period for the deal, but offered some context. He says the revenue projected overshadows even the oil industry.
More money to come in from here than from all of the oil revenue that we have received to this point in time. And on top of that, it's steady income. It's not the variable income that we saw with oil where we have an oil crash and revenue drops away and then we have an oil spike and it goes up. It's predictable. So, and this is before the multiplier effect that happens when you start employing 3,000 people, 2,000 people. In fact, the biggest conversation in the room was, where are we going to get the bodies?
The miners are a family, and they have to take care of each other.
It's truly an honor as a Newfoundlander to be able to go out there and bring back a representation of all of the Newfoundlanders that weren't able to come back.
Love the world around you because it does shimmer with the impossible sometimes made possible.
With the holiday rush underway, the pressure is on for retailers, but the ongoing Canada Post strike means many businesses are hitting new hurdles and crossing their fingers for a holiday miracle. Here now's Leila Baudouin reports.
It's their biggest season, but this one also a little strange.
It sucks.
For sales clerk Wanda Sams, the strike impacts her life and her job.
It's not good. Like, I got a grandchild that lives away, and I can't send him his Christmas gifts.
An issue for many Canadians this holiday, and during an already hectic season, businesses face another uncertainty.
It is a scramble, a very big scramble.
Less than 2 weeks to Christmas, Sam says the signature Cornerbrook jewelry store is still waiting for packages to show up.
We have orders that are in limbo. We have customers that might not get their purchases because it was ordered through. We ordered through a company. So do we reorder and get it through like a different means by courier or whatever, or do we wait and see if the strike is going to be over?
Mailing checks back and forth to suppliers, we can't do that anymore. So either we had to change to EFT, or we have to courier checks to our suppliers.
The postal strike is making the business of doing business complicated. Move further north and the stakes are even higher, with some rural and remote communities waiting for medicine, parents unable to purchase affordable Pampers. But back here in Corner Brook, some businesses say there may be a silver lining.
Hopefully it'll turn the trend around a little bit, and once they're in your stores again, they'll take a look at what is available locally, that we are priced the same as everybody else.
John Alteen says it's not just Amazon that carries the latest TVs and speakers. He hopes the Canada Post chaos brings more customers back inside, maybe for good.
Hopefully that money will come back in through the doors again. So
When you walk in here, you can see it, you feel it, and you can say, oh yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
With the strike nearing its fourth week and the two sides still at odds, it's a major disruption that might carry into the new year. Leila Baudouin, CBC News, Corner Brook.
Hi everyone, I'm Jane Adey, host of Land and Sea. We have a Christmas favorite coming up for you this Sunday. It's the show all about Port de Grave and their annual tradition of putting Christmas lights on their fishing boats. There are impressive light shows on lawns all over Port de Grave, but it's the dazzling drive-through in the harbor that really draws a crowd. Photographers like Michael Windsor snap up the site.
I had to come out and see what it's all about, and I'm amazed by how beautiful it is. It's really cold, but it's definitely worth the trip.
The colorful captures are Conception Bay eye candy. Michael says the sound is a treat for the senses too.
Pictures don't do it justice, you actually got to see it. And with the wind, you get to hear the squeaking of the boats and stuff too.
The boat lining is Port de Grave, whether summer or winter. People's know when you know you're from Port de Grave, they'll speak about the boat lining. So it's nice, you know, it's nice if they keep it up, you know, and like I say, it draws people together and people look forward to it.
People light up their houses and light up the lawns. We got boats, and I mean, it's different. I mean, every community haven't got boats. We have, so we're blessed in that respect. And it's nice. So it's really different. You go anywhere and see houses decorated. You go anywhere and see trees decorated. But you can't go everywhere and see boats lit up. You've got to be in a fishing community.
So that's a show called A Gift of Light. That's coming up this Sunday at 11:30, 11 o'clock in most of Labrador. If you miss it on Sunday, watch on Monday, right after Here and Now. Or check us out online on CBC Gem or on CBC Newfoundland and Labrador's YouTube channel. So we'll see you this Sunday for A Gift of Light. A very Merry Christmas to all our viewers.
Well, this evening would be a beautiful night to enjoy the lights with these temperatures that are well above where we should be sitting this time of year. Most of us really hitting the double digits this afternoon. No surprise, a couple of records have been broken as well. But if we take a look at the temperature difference between yesterday and today, nearly 16 degrees warmer in Happy Valley Goose Bay this afternoon, and even across the island, anywhere from 4 to about 12 degrees warmer than the temperatures that we've been seeing. So what's going to happen over the next 24 to 36 hours? We have some temperatures that are going to cool down. Cold front's going to move through and cool off these mild temperatures. That's also going to be a recipe for potential for some snow squalls to develop on the west coast. And then we've got some windy conditions tonight and into tomorrow for parts of Labrador and even parts of the island as well. I'll break it all down for you coming up a little later.
there will be much debate over whether this proposed Churchill Falls deal is the best the province could have gotten from Quebec. But investment advisor Larry Short says one thing is for sure, the projected revenue could turn the tide on the province's annual deficit. And he says the risk-reward ratio seems to be in our favor. He spoke with On the Go's Chrissy Holmes this afternoon.
You know, I've been a critic of the government in the sense that they have made forecasts saying that we're going to break even and we'd be in surplus over the next number of years, and we've never been able to do it. So this may, depending on, you know, lead us not into temptation when it comes to now we've got more money, let's go spend it more. But at some point here, this will actually provide for enough to cover, please, you know, knock wood, the deficits that we are projecting over the next number of years and actually bring us into surplus.
Okay, so anything was better than 0.02 cents per kilowatt hour, but I mean, what they came to 5.9 cents. I mean, when you're looking across the market, I mean, was that the best deal we could have got, or was it just better than the worst deal ever?
Well, you know, optimal is always hard to get to. I mean, but just to give you an idea from the Quebec point of view, I took a look at Montreal Gazette, what their perception of this thing was an hour before I came into the station, and their headline is the fact that the Quebec locks in low-cost power for Churchill Falls for the next 50 years. Similar project would cost a minimum of 13 cents per kilowatt hour in Quebec versus getting this for about 6 cents a kilowatt hour, right? So, you know, could we have squeezed them more on a pure number basis? Maybe. But when you get someone saying that they're going to cover the cost of any overruns, that removes the risk here. And if we end up indeed with, you know, 4 major projects being built on top of the fact that the spin-offs within Labrador itself, like there are many resource projects up there that just can't move ahead because there's no power. So development of other mines and developments up there, this is really extraordinary for the province.
Extraordinary for the province and seemingly for the Innu Nation. The Innu say they were excluded from the original Churchill Falls negotiations. Now a seat at the table and the promise of a renewed relationship.
It's going to be great for us, you know, because what we are talking about is the projects that happen in our land will benefit to us, you know. That is great. That's been acknowledged by the province and some other mining companies. So we're talking about IBAs, impact benefit agreements. You know, that's good. You know, they acknowledge that this is our land, you know, and this is our river, you know, and that's good. You know,
how much revenue does Innu Nation stand to benefit from in light of this deal today? Can you speak to that?
Well, I cannot give you a comment on that. I cannot speak that comment. That will be worked out, you know. But at this time, I cannot give you any.
But can you talk about the impact maybe that it's going to have on Shahajit and Natwashish?
Well, there'll be lots of impact. I know there'll be good impact, like jobs, you know, good jobs, training, you know. So other than negative impacts like some social problems, you know, we will have to deal with them as they come.
You said it would mean no more rate mitigations. Do you mean that the structure of this deal means it can't be adjusted unilaterally by the province to your detriment?
What I mean was there will be no more side deals without our consent. So the province have to consult us, and you know, before they do something again. So they told us that no more this behind, you know, a deal that they done without consent, without our knowledge. But we have to develop a good relationship in order to have that, you know, good, you know.
And do you expect that the Innu Nation will be in the room or at the table as this MOU between Hydro-Quebec and Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro is finalized in the next few months?
There will be a table there for us to negotiate, and this will take time. Our lawyers will also involve with in terms of language, you know. So that's good.
Ashley, it was a remarkable day on a number of fronts today. We had the big Churchill Falls announcement, and the temperatures today were unreal.
Yeah, at one point it was 16 degrees in St. John's this afternoon, just shy of the record, which was 16.8 degrees. So definitely mild out there. We did break a number of records, though, across the province, and the new monthly records were broken as well. Well, it was tied in Winterland at 15 degrees. St. Lawrence broke the record, 13.1. Cartwright also broke your monthly record back from just last year. And then for Goose Bay, you broke your record from the same thing from last year. And in fact, last year was quite warm around this exact time, yesterday and today, with those temperatures in the double digits for most of us across the province. Now, what's happening right now, we've got this area of low pressure to the north. That's why we're seeing this southerly flow, but we've got a cold front associated with that. In behind that, much colder air, which I can show you on this map here, much colder air back, which is going to eventually move in. But we're already starting to see those temperatures drop across western portions of Labrador. Didn't get quite as warm as first anticipated, only topped out at about 2 degrees this afternoon for Lab City. But those temperatures now are going down and will continue to do so as we head through tonight. Down to -2 in Lab City, but you can see still lots of mild air out there, especially for Labrador and especially across the island, anywhere from 8 to as much as 14 degrees still at this hour, which is, well above where we should be sitting for this time of year. Now, out ahead of the cold front, there is lots of showers associated with this and rain that's going to be heavy at times as we head through tonight. That will head through central and then eventually the eastern portion of the island. But in behind that cold front, things are dramatically going to change up across Labrador. And Environment Canada has a special weather statement in effect from Lab City all the way through to Cartwright and north to Nain. And that's just because your temperatures are going to be rapidly dropping tonight, and anything, especially that melt that's been happening for central areas of Labrador and towards the coast, that is going to turn into ice once those temperatures drop back down well below zero. Now, I've put the winds on here for you just to kind of time that out. Along that cold front, winds will be a bit brisk overnight tonight, or at least through the next couple of hours as that cold front sweeps through across the island. We could be talking about winds 70 to as much as 80 kilometers per hour. They'll be very quick, very brief, because in behind that, those winds will ease. And up across Labrador, although you are going to stay breezy. That will be the story tonight and through the day tomorrow up across the Big Land, with winds gusting between 70 to 90 kilometers per hour. So they will be out of the southwest, but as that front moves through, we will see a change in the winds there. And then for the island, temperatures are going to drop starting in the west. It's still going to stay above zero, though, for the eastern half of the island, between 2 and 5 degrees tonight, dropping to the single digits for the rest of the Big Land. As far as the rainfall amounts go for tonight and into tomorrow, generally not too much, but we could be talking about 5 to 10, some pockets of higher than that, maybe 10 to 20 millimeters, depending on where we see some of that heavier rain. But that's pretty much it, because once that front moves through, we get back into some of that colder air tomorrow, and then the snow squall machine will kick in. And it looks like that will happen likely late day. The winds will align to see those snow squalls develop. So we'll see flurries. They'll likely turn into snow squalls once they become a little bit more organized later in the day on the west coast and then parts of the south coast. As is typical when we see this setup, we may see those snow squalls develop for you as well. And really, this pattern continues into Saturday. In fact, overnight and into Saturday, looks like a better chance that we will see those snow squalls develop on the west coast. Up across Labrador, you are very much entrenched in that colder air. So you are going to see the potential for some flurries tomorrow up across the Big Land. As far as temperatures go across the island, not quite as warm as today, but still mild, 4 to 6 degrees for the eastern portion of the province, the western portion, just a couple of degrees above zero tomorrow. And then Labrador, minus single digits towards the coast. Different story, though, for the west. You're going to sit in the minus 10-degree range. But with those winds gusting upwards of about 70 kilometers per hour, again, still out of the southwest, you're going to be talking about wind chills tomorrow in the minus 20s. So that's your forecast for your Friday. We'll look ahead to the weekend when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, Green Farms is not letting the weather get in the way. The business set up shop inside a Mount Pearl office building growing herbs and microgreens. The CBC's Julia Israel dropped by to learn more.
The sun hasn't been out for a good minute, but that is no excuse not to eat your greens. Green Farm brings veggies to the table all year long, and all the magic happens right in there.
When you think office, you might not picture this. Green, growing, vibrant, but inside this commercial building is a thriving operation.
Right now we're kind of just growing some of the staples, like a lot of leafy greens, some staple herbs, and some microgreens. And we're doing this in about 2,000 square feet of retrofitted office space. I believe at one point it might have been a restaurant or a railway stop or both.
Hydroponics comes down to growing plants in water rather than soil, making the growing season last all year long.
So in hydroponics, you're really just feeding it the exact amount of nutrients it needs. You're cutting out a lot of the big heavy machinery that is normally involved with conventional farming. So we're seeing a huge density improvement, a big productivity improvement.
These bright lights aren't for show. By growing here at home, Green Farm NL is fighting food insecurity.
Newfoundland imports 90% of the fresh food that it eats. And then when that food gets here, it's poor quality, already half expired, and super expensive. And it comes with a massive carbon footprint from trucking it all the way from California or further. So it really fits well into our local environment, because not only is it providing us security for food in producing our own stuff, but we're also getting a higher quality product since it's closer to us and it doesn't have these long transport routes. And then all of that comes down to giving you a better price in the end as well.
And Scott says these microgreens pack a big nutritional punch. 1 ounce of these tiny broccoli is equal to about 40 ounces of full-grown broccoli florets.
Microgreens are a really versatile product that a lot of people think of as just garnish or on your salad. But they're good with everything. They're great. You put them in a pasta, you can put them in your soups, you can put them on pizza, put them on your turkey sandwich with Christmas.
Green Farm NL wants to grow too, expanding its reach in Newfoundland and Labrador and the products it produces.
Right now, this building allows us to do about 200 to 250 households a week with about a dozen restaurants. So really the dream, next step is something around a 10,000 square foot open warehouse that we build from the ground up to be specifically designed for what we're doing. So we can eventually get into like tomatoes, hot peppers, strawberries, basically any plant that there's a demand for locally, we can grow. And we can grow it year-round with no drop in productions.
Forget the cucumbers. Green Farm NL thinks these homegrown greens could make a big difference. Julia Israel, CBC News, Mount Pearl.
Well, we're regaining our power with the new proposed Upper Churchill contract, and that's what the province says. The provincial government is promoting the deal online, calling it the Churchill's new chapter.
For over 50 years, Newfoundland and Labrador has been stuck in a binding, bad Churchill Falls contract. 50 years of feeling angry and powerless. Now, it is our time. We're tearing up that contract and regaining our power. We're getting more development, more jobs, and more money. Welcoming a new deal for our resources and a new future for our kids and grandkids. This changes everything. Learn how at ourchapter.ca.
Well, you heard Premier Andrew Furey there, and you'll hear him again now, but this time unscripted, as he speaks with David Cochrane about today's deal on power and politics, which the Quebec Premier says was years in the making.
Francois Legault talked about this starting 4 years ago when you started to build a personal relationship. What was the moment over the course of those 4 years that you knew you had sealed this deal?
I don't think there's any specific moment that we thought that this all came together, but I felt strongly very early and strategically that we had to build a relationship with Quebec. The very first trip I took as Premier with my wife was to Quebec to meet with Premier Legault and his wife, and we started to develop a relationship. We started to speak openly about the ills of the past with respect to the existing Churchill Falls contract, and then, talk about the future. And then that, advanced over different meetings, and eventually it led to him coming here to Newfoundland and Labrador to further get an understanding about the cultural and economic context of the existing agreement, but also to look at the future and the potential for new developments together if we could get the partnership right. And he was very open about talking about to the people of Newfoundland and Labrador. And David, as a Newfoundlander and Labrador, how symbolic and important it was to hear a Premier of Quebec and Newfoundland and Labrador talking about how bad the deal was. And then that continued over time. We met at hockey games. We've had a good working relationship. Not to say that it hasn't come with some friction between me and his negotiating team at times, but certainly I think developing that common understanding of each other's goals, despite the challenges of the history of the past, led to a path forward.
Right. Well, you guys hugged today, and I never thought I'd ever see a Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador hug a Premier of Quebec. Is certainly in public.
But did you ever think a Premier of Quebec would come with a $250 billion check to the people of Newfoundland and Labrador?
No, I absolutely did not, and so that makes it unbelievable. And that a lot of people back home where you are will not believe this. They will believe this is too good to be true, right? Because that has been the history of this and has been the way this story has gone. So what do you say to people who, some might be cynical, you can't convince them, but others are skeptical and want reassurance?
Sure, of course. And look, if I was not in the position I'm in, I would share their skepticism. I encourage the skepticism because we have seen 2 hydroelectric projects in the past, one a partnership with Quebec, which went sideways, another one where we tried to do it by ourselves, which went sideways. I would encourage people to think about the lessons of the past when they are looking at this new deal for the future. We have incorporated those lessons into the framework of what we are going to get for the future. So on the Churchill Falls existing agreement, for example, there's no fixed price.
Right.
There is a definitive market-based escalator built in for the price block market adjusting mechanism that we have chosen. So it will see profits go quite significantly, almost on a very steep slope, towards the end of the 50-year contract. We learned a lesson that 65 years was too long, so let's do a 50-year contract. We learned that fixing a price or putting a price with an escalator may not be the best package. This current package looks at not just the next 17 years of brand new revenue that we would never have seen. Quebec is under no legal obligation to renegotiate that with us, but we will see $17 billion a year in the next 17 years, and then that escalates to $2 billion a year by 2044, and $6, David, by 2062. It's a great deal, and I know that people will be skeptical of the new developments as well, but we've packaged those lessons learned from Muskrat Falls to try to mitigate against the new developments. Equally, I'm sure people have seen us in the past make mistakes with Indigenous communities, and we've made sure to incorporate them as rightful in their rightful position in these new developments.
Right. Okay. You said $17 billion a year over the next 17 years. You mean $1 billion a year for a total?
Between 25 and.
Because if you got $17 billion a year from Quebec, this is a tremendous deal. But look,
$1 billion a year.
I got you.
Average $1 billion a year between 2025 and 2041.
Well, let's talk about this, because I don't know if you'll be premier in 2041. I highly doubt you will be in 2075. But at least at the start of this 17-year period, where Quebec is paying 3,000% more for the power than it paid before, from 0.2 cents a kilowatt hour to 5.9. What's your plan for that money? Because, you know, we've seen with oil in the past, it comes in, they cut taxes, they give raises, they hire the civil service, and then 5 years later, you're back in a mess. Like, what are you going to do to ensure that doesn't happen with this?
Sure. So my government has taken a different approach, despite some fiscally challenging times, to ensure that we've always been balanced and prudent. Not necessarily always financially balanced, although we'd like to be and we will be, but balanced in approach to the overall social construct that is Newfoundland and Labrador. By that I mean, despite the economic woes of Newfoundland and Labrador, we created a future fund in Newfoundland and Labrador. I believe we're the only province currently to have one, recognizing that our oil and gas resource is non-renewable. So we need to be responsible and put money aside in that savings account, if you will. And we already have, in a short period of time, over $300 million in that account. So we would look at dividing this up, this is surplus up, to pay down debt, save for the future, and invest in today. That would be a reasonable, prudent, balanced approach. We would ensure that we are paying down debt. Coincidentally, by the way, the debt is $17 billion. We'd be paying down debt while saving for the future, and that's what that future fund is incredibly exciting, because eventually your kids, my kids, our grandkids could conceivably live off the proceeds of that future fund account if we're smart. We continue to invest in it and we don't touch it.
Well, a former Liberal premier is weighing in. Roger Grimes believes this could be the beginning of a new era, a new relationship between Quebec and Newfoundland and Labrador. He visited our CBC radio studio this evening and spoke with On the Go's Chrissy Holmes.
We're so used to in our lives, in everything, I suppose, families, home, everywhere else, of something looks too good to be true, maybe it is, and then all of a sudden, you know, like the other foot drops. I don't think there's another foot to drop in this case. I think that there's work to be done, because, you know, as they say, the devil is in the details, but the scope of this and the magnitude of what was laid out today looks like a brilliant piece of work by a bunch of people that have decided and committed to be real partners going into the future, instead of one trying to get something over on the other one. So new relationship, new time, new era, new people, new deal. Let's hope it's all true.
How do you think this day in history is going to be remembered for decades to come?
I think I relate to this. I remember when I retired from politics, we had just done the Voisey's Bay deal, and in my departing interviews, people were saying, you know, because it was being criticized at the time, people were saying, well, what happens if those people that were critics of it and what they said wouldn't work? What happens if that's true? I said, well, I got every confidence that the lawyers have all looked at it. It's going to work. And here, what I saw today, I think the lawyers are all going to make it work, and it's going to be like one of those real turning points in the history of Newfoundland and Labrador. We saw it today. We witnessed it today.
It's going to be interesting now to watch what happens on the business side of things as well. We know there's going to be a lot of surplus power. There's potential there for industrial development. I mean, to be your ears in the room, what were you hearing as you were, you know, sidling around the room, listening?
I mean, they're excited about it. The opportunities for additional power in Labrador. There have been a whole series of developments up there crying out for extra energy, and it looks like it's going to be available. They might not need it all for export. There are blocks, I think, that people have talked about that can be recalled for use in Newfoundland and Labrador. It won't be used on the island because we can't get it here. The transmission doesn't happen, but it can certainly be used in Labrador.
I think the relationship, the laugh that we were seeing between premiers today was quite interesting too. It's been fascinating to hear your reflection on this.
Historical difference in that relationship, and great for the two provinces and great for Canada.
What do you think Joe would say today?
Oh, he'd be very proud. He'd be the proudest person on the planet, and he'd be playing his record all over again and enjoying Christmas.
Ottawa is preparing to release details about its billion-dollar border plan in the coming days. Premiers across the country got an early heads-up Wednesday during a call with the Prime Minister. Some want a tougher approach with the U.S., but as Olivia Stevanovich reports, not all premiers agree on that.
Canada is full of natural resources Americans may no longer be able to rely on. If Donald Trump moves forward with his threat to impose a 25% tax on all Canadian goods.
We power 1.5 million homes, and if they put on tariffs, it's going to be unaffordable for Americans to buy electricity.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford doubling down on a counter threat he made in last night's call between the premiers and the Prime Minister.
We're going to use every tool in our toolbox to defend Ontarians and Canadians across the border.
Well, that's okay if he does that, that's fine.
Critical minerals, metals, and forestry products may also become part of the retaliation strategy.
The U.S. is trying to build homes for Americans, but they need our 2x4s to do so.
But premiers are divided about how hard to punch back.
Under no circumstances will Alberta agree to cut off oil and gas exports.
Alberta Premier Danielle Smith says she prefers a diplomatic approach, and she's not alone.
We hope it is just bluster. We're preparing as if it is not. There will be no winners in a trade war.
I had the chance to meet with Mr. Trump last weekend in Paris, and he told me very clearly that we can avoid those tariffs if we do what needs to be done with the borders.
The U.S. president-elect wants Canada to stop the flow of fentanyl and illegal migrants crossing the border. The federal government shared details about its plan to address Trump's concerns, said by sources to cost more than $1 billion, during their call yesterday with premiers.
We were encouraged by their desire to contribute provincial personnel, provincial assets to this work.
Alberta released its own plan today to strengthen its border with Montana. Other provinces are expected to follow. As for the federal government's border strategy, well, the public safety minister says it will be released to the Trump administration in the coming days and the Canadian public. Olivia Stevanovich, CBC News, Ottawa.
Look at that one over there.
Is this good?
Yeah, a little bit more. That felt good.
Therapeutic almost. There's a wrestling ring down there. What's that about?
This is wild.
Okay, so hopefully people enjoyed this little warm up while they could, because things are changing as we head into the weekend, right?
Yep, it is going to be much colder across all of us really are going to see much colder temperatures. Let's take a look at what's going to happen. Now, having said that, Saturday evening and into the overnight, we're going to see some snow squalls. They'll likely end as the winds will be less favorable for snow squall development through the day on Sunday. But up across Labrador, still looking at the potential for some flurries, especially in the west and the north through the day. And we may even see a few flurries in the east as well. But overall, it's going to be a fairly quiet day. Most of us will see some sunshine, but temperatures are going to be on the cooler side. So minus single digits between -1 and -5 across the island. Labrador, you're looking at temperatures somewhere between -4 and -8 as your daytime highs, and a little less windy than we've been seeing as well. So the long-range forecast, I am way too far ahead. Let's see. Let's start with Friday. Let's start that all over again. I wondered what was going on. So Friday evening into Saturday, we are looking at that potential for some snow squall development. And again, that will continue through most of the day. And as we head into the evening hours, then we will see those winds change, and we should see the snow squalls taper off for most of us. Now, temperatures on Saturday are also going to be a little cooler. We'll be hovering in the minus single digits, a little bit warmer than that further east, with again the potential we may see some of those squalls reach the Avalon again. They shouldn't be significant, but there is a definite potential for some flurries. Overall, daytime highs will be hovering around the 0-degree mark. Still hanging on to the minus double digits, though, for Lab West as you sit around -10, and then again minus single digits for the rest of the island. Now, let's jump ahead to the long-range forecast. As we get into Monday and Tuesday, for St. John's and Eastern Newfoundland, it actually looks like a nice start to the week. Temperatures will be just a few degrees above 0. So if you haven't done any of your Christmas shopping, that's a pretty nice day to do that. And our overnight lows will be hovering somewhere between 0 and about +1. For central Newfoundland, a nice stretch of weather for you as well. Just a few flurries here and there with some sunshine in the mix. Overall, daytime highs through the weekend will stay below 0, but we'll head right back up above 0 as we get into Monday and Tuesday. And for western Newfoundland as well, some flurries on Sunday. Monday looks beautiful, and a return of some showers or flurries for your Tuesday. Labrador, you're going to hang out in the minus single digits, maybe even above 0 for Lab West, Lab East, or Eastern Labrador rather. Around 2 degrees for Tuesday, and then hanging out in the single digits for western Labrador with some flurries both Monday and Tuesday. Our weather photo of the day, speaking of Labrador, is in Hopedale. Take a look at this beautiful cotton candy sky, as I like to call it.
Yeah, I see that. It's so pretty with the blue and the orangey pink.
Yeah, for sure. Wayne captured this shot of the moon rising and the sun setting in Hopedale, and we really appreciate that photo, because that is a good one. Thank you for that. If you have any weather photos you'd like to share with us, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Yeah, thank you very much, Wayne. And I'm loving the look of all of those sunshine icons
I know.
for next week. So far, that's good.
Long time coming.
Yep. Love it. All right, well, that's it for us. Thank you so much for spending part of your evening with us. I hope you can join us again tomorrow. We'll have, I'm sure, lots of follow-up interviews with the big Churchill Falls announcement that happened today, so stay tuned for that.
Good night.